And my first name is Ammon, and he was the only person in the Book of Mormon who was a pacifist. See, I went to prison in 1917. I was head of the Socialist Club. I was Secretary of the Revolution. That's pretty good for a kid. When I talk to Protestants, they say, why'd you join the worst church? When I talk to the Catholics, they say, how let a guy like you in?
Yes, Ammon was anti-capitalistic. During the First World War, he did not lose his socialist ideals, and he refused to cooperate with the draft.
That was in Columbus, Ohio. And then we were arrested, each one, 20 of us, put in a different cell. It's in the paper, me and another guy, to be shot, extreme penalty, Monday. Down there it said maybe, but I didn't see the maybe.
He went to prison for 2 years as a result.
I was a socialist, I was an atheist, and I was not a pacifist.
That's right. He went in as a socialist and atheist, and he came out as an anarchist and a Christian.
I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what anarchism is. Anarchism is not about just overthrowing all order and having chaos. You know, what it's about is decentralization and about people taking responsibility for their own lives and centering power in the individual and in the community, not in some larger framework of hierarchy.
My name's Daniel Jameson. This is from his autobiography, The Book of Ammon. And the interviewer is asking him some questions, and the interviewer states, "You are not practical." And Ammon replies, "I am the most practical fellow you can find. The dictionary says being practical is pertaining or relating to practice or action. You might say that we anarchists are the original do-it-yourself folks."
Diane Hennacy is the grandniece of Ammon Hennacy. She's a psychiatrist. She has requested and received all the material assembled by the FBI through the Freedom of Information Act.
Well, in doing my research about my uncle, one of the things that I read about him was that he had an FBI agent trail him practically every day of his life for over 30 years. This is the file here. It gives you an idea. Ammon was known for public fasting to draw attention to the immorality of socially acceptable violence.
Ammon picketed against the violence of genocidal U.S. nuclear weapons. The nuclear industry produces toxic hazards of concentrated radioactive pollution, also known as poison fire. What do you call this place?
What do you call this place?
Aztlan?
Turtle Island.
The United States?
A land rich in poison fire. It's unbelievable and sickly essential to think about poison fire and the first aid of nuclear abolition.
Conventional wisdom says that humans should not permanently damage our Earth.
The legacy of nuclearism is graphically central in this segment of the coil, spanning the 1890s to the current time. There's many issues for people of conscience in our society. Their prophetic witness encompasses a range of disciplines in trying to create a security in their homeland, a true peace forged through various methods.
Henry David Thoreau wrote one of my favorite books, which was Walden, that I read at an early age and really loved. And, of course, there's his essay on civil disobedience, which has been very formative for a lot of us who've done civil disobedience.
I think in the last 100 years, a lot of progress has been made. We've seen a lot of changes happen, but I also feel like there's so much we have to work on. And I do, when I think back in time to like, oh, what was it like 100 years ago, I feel like I could identify with sisters and brothers who have been struggling through time to create justice in this world. So, and I feel like it's just as like our feelings of despair or whatever probably could be matched, even though we've seen progress has happened in human rights. I feel like, yeah, there's still a lot we can do. So I feel solidarity with people from 100 years ago. Being here today at the cemetery and seeing Emma Goldman's gravesite, it inspires me to read a biography that I have of her.
She was born in Russia and emigrated to the United States. And she started to become an activist through the labor movement, and she was a big proponent for workers' rights.
She said to me that the state is my enemy.
Was kind of a very vocal person for anarchy and wrote essays and books about it. And so that was kind of her political philosophy, but she was involved with a lot of different things. She just had a really big heart and cared about so many different things. But basically in the end, she was deported from the United States for her beliefs, for being an anarchist, and sent back to Russia. Right now, my paid work is working for the Redwood Peace and Justice Center, and that's where we are. And this is a local organization that was started about a year ago. And the purpose of the center is to serve as a resource for all the different activists and organizations in the area. It's a place where people can connect up with each other and organize, and we have computers and a library and a video library. So we're just trying to serve as a resource to bring everyone together. There's a lot of really powerful, strong activists in this area, and so it's important to have the center here for people to use.
Veterans for Peace, Inc. was started in 1985 by Jerry Vinicio, who actually didn't even know about the earlier Veterans for Peace. And we probably have 70 or 75 chapters, active chapters around the country, of which one is here in Arcata. There actually was an earlier Veterans for Peace started after World War II, 47. Now the VA acknowledges that all veterans who were in Vietnam are presumed to have been exposed by Agent Orange. This is fairly recent. That means at least 2.8 million soldiers, including myself, were exposed presumptively, according to the VA. Depleted uranium has been used as armor to resist penetration, but it's mostly been used as the armor on projectiles, both bullets, small arms ammunition, as well as larger projectiles, especially used as for tank killers and bunkers. Like the Pentagon for years denied that Agent Orange had any impact on human beings. The Pentagon is claiming this for depleted uranium, and yet we have 10,000 soldiers from Gulf War I who've died. We have 270,000 who filed claims out of the 696,000 who were in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and southern Iraq. The United States War Department uses various substances and munitions to assume some kind of superiority in warfare without examining the implications of their various chemical, biological, nuclear, and conventional weapons. There has never been chemical warfare like in Vietnam. That was chemical warfare, unprecedented, with Agent Orange, Agent White, Agent Blue, Agent Green. There were 4 of them.
Peace be with you. No blood for oil. Impeach Bush and bring our kids home alive with all of their arms and legs attached. No more amputees. No more blood for oil. Impeach Bush and bring our kids home alive with their arms and legs attached. No more amputees. Peace be with you. Peace be with you. I'll give you my 2 favorite jail names. I am Barabbas and No More Nukes. And I vigiled on many federal building lawns, and they told me I have to leave, and they always have backed off that I could vigil. Is this a sticker?
Need to let you guys know that you need to terminate, wrap up, and be out of here by 4 o'clock.
I'm not leaving here.
Okay, we don't have to accommodate you forever. Well, at 1600, if you don't go, we're going to give you a dispersal order, and if you don't leave, we're going to take you into custody. You understand that?
I'm kind of riled up, not being able to get in there today. I wanted to go to the Armed Forces celebration in there. It's the Armed Forces Day that it's advertised.
They don't let veterans in?
They absolutely would not. I heard it on the radio. If you didn't hear it, I heard it coming here. I was a downwinder from the Hanford Nuclear Weapons Plant, and I sat 9 months on that long. You can put that in there if you want, and maybe I'll be here 9 months and break that record. I don't know.
Iraq has fallen, and Austria fell to Hitler.
We couldn't sleep. We just literally couldn't sleep. And we were organizing and protesting and speaking because we'd been to Iraq. We were just could not find peace. So we thought that we needed to do something more, that we needed to do something that had us feel like we did the best we could for the people of Iraq. And so we went through a discernment process, and on April 14th we went out to Vandenberg Air Force Base, had a prayer vigil for about 45 minutes, and then at the end of the prayer vigil I got up on the wall with 4 ounces of blood that I collected from my arm, and we threw it on the sign.
I am Tensi Hernandez, and my husband is Dennis Apple. Though it was Dennis who did the action, we both did it. What we actually did, though, was specifically inspired by friends who had poured blood on the Pentagon. And they had done that as also an act of witness to the atrocities of this country. At this point in our life, it would be best for our children if Dennis were to do the action and not myself, since they're so young.
And it's a system where the people that do the killing don't have to be confronted with the blood. They don't have to see the consequences of that. We felt that an appropriate kind of a symbolic act would be for them to see some blood, because that's what you're talking about. Especially in war, you're talking about people's lives, and blood being a symbol of their lives, and the loss of that blood being a symbol of their death. So I think that it's a powerful symbol. I tend to look at things like this comparatively. When I sprayed blood on the sign at Vandenberg, there was a lot of backlash from that. We're in a conservative area. There's a lot of folks who really took exception to that. That's a violent act, they would say. And some folks would say banging on an A-10 Warthog, which delivers depleted uranium weapons with a hammer and doing really minimal damage, is a violent act. But I look at it comparatively. I want to know from people who are appalled at blood on the sign at Vandenberg why they are more appalled by that than a child's blood flowing in the street, or a man or a woman's blood. Why does that not appall them more than, blood on a sign that was washed off before I was even finished being booked, and no life was endangered by that? Phil Berrigan and his brother Dan, along with 7 other folks, broke into draft files, then took them out and burned them in the street using homemade napalm, and they went to prison for that.
We make our prayer in the name of that God whose name is peace and decency and unity and love.
The draft board action at Catonsville helped to give a sense of coherence, a sense of the rootedness of resistance by risking jail, risking life and limb, and saying no as a matter of the Christian values to oppose war. The fact that there were people of faith involved, I think, was profoundly stabilizing, and for me had the effect of saying this is really what it has to be about, and it helped to focus my own attention on being clearer about what resistance must involve. And community is at the heart of it. It isn't government. Government is not the key to our hope for the future. In fact, as Isaiah reminded us over 2,600 years ago, we have to disarm. We have to convert swords into plowshares and